They swung this huge trade. And honestly, I don't think they gave up a ton. I think they got the way better end of this deal. The only thing that it's really going to cost them is money. This is a game changer, I think.
Maybe it's too risky and maybe it's going to burn them in the end, but we need to excite the fan base. We need something to have them go, this is why we want to come to the ballpark. Very, very kind of a blockbuster stealth trade. Kyle, your top pitching prospect, Kyle Harrison, are kind of, I think we talked about this last week. I thought he was the guy that they would probably trade because he's top guy and then kind of has moved down the hierarchy a little bit, has kind of lost velocity, picked it back up. I think he's definitely below Hayden Birdsong now on the young pitchers and probably some others. But Posey kind of had telegraphed this one. They were going to make a move. I didn't think it was going to be this one. Kyle Harrison, James Tibbs, Jordan Hicks to Boston for Rafael Devers, who is a great hitter. Obviously, a lot of controversy in Boston over position switches and the big contract, and was he being too grumpy about it? But the guy can hit. He's 28 years old. Paying him a lot of money into the future, but this is the kind of guy the Giants have been chasing for years and have not been able to get. So instead of a free agent signing like they tried to do with Aaron Judge and Ohtani and Bryce Harper and on and on and on, and it did do with Carlos Correa, then backed out of it when there were some health concerns. This is it. This is their free agent signing. They just did it in the trade, and I think it's Buster Posey being Buster Posey. He's going to go do it. I think there was definitely frustration within the Giants that Farhan Zaidi, who very bright and did a lot of good things, got close to these kind of deals and just couldn't pull them off, was thinking about 5 other things. And different than most teams, I had heard, recently ownership wanted him to push the chips all in. They wanted to pay a big contract for somebody who could make a difference. Rafael Devers could make a lot of difference. I don't know if he's going to sell extra tickets, but if you win, he will. And he can hit. That guy can just hit. Don't know what position he's going to play. Don't know where he's going to be in the order. That's the things I might go to the presser later today. I've been writing a lot, Dylan, so I don't think I'm going to write another one, but I might go to the presser just to see what they say. But as you were there, in LA when the Giants do this trade, and it was definitely, I'm sure, felt with the Dodgers. And anytime you can do a deal that makes the Dodgers kind of take a second look, it's not a terrible thing for the Giants. What did you think about this, the whole thing?
Yeah, it was, so by this point, I had kind of gotten some clues that Ohtani's return was becoming like imminent, right? So I'm, I locked myself in like a room on the side there of the thing. I'm on the phone. I come out and Jack Harris, our beat guy, is like, hey, the Giants just got Devers. I'm like, what? I mean, it was right. And I mean, Harrison was already out there warming up, getting ready for the game or whatever. Wow, wild. This is just, one thing that one of the many things that you do very well is I think kind of you do a really great job, I think, of kind of characterizing like an organizational ethos, and that's one thing that you've been on with Posey and kind of this change in leadership. It's just the way he's kind of going to go about things. And this kind of embodies obviously that, right? And I think right now the Giants kind of are in this stage of, Posey's personality is kind of right. That's the personality of the organization right now. And, the way they kind of went about this, again, we're going to take it where we can get it type deal, right? It doesn't have to be kind of this clean free agent courtship. It's like, okay, you got this guy that obviously Boston's wanting to dump. This is a chance to kind of be opportunistic and pounce on this and be aggressive when you kind of have to be. And they swung this huge trade that I think, and honestly, I don't think they gave up a ton, I think they got the way better end of this deal. The only thing that it's really going to cost them is money. I'm with Kershaw on this one in terms of prospects are just prospects until they're not. We've seen just over the years, all these prospects that the Dodgers have traded away, almost none of them have kind of made them regret like, oh, we shouldn't have done that. I mean, this is a game changer, I think, and I think it kind of signals, I think, and, even the Dodger Padre game last night, you don't really get the sense the Padres kind of have what is necessary.
You said that last week, and it hit me like
stand up to the Dodgers. And like, again, I know the last 2 games the Dodgers won against the Giants, but the fact that they took that game against Yamamoto, that first game of the series, right? The way, and right now the Dodgers, they're coming right as soon as they're done with this Padres series, they're going to have like the easiest record in baseball. theoretically guys will be coming back. I mean, if you ask me, and I still think this is the case, this division race is over, right? The schedule's just too soft. They're in first place, even with all the injuries, everything that's gone on. They've survived it. And yet, right, this is the Giants. This is Buster Posey saying, hey, you know what? We're not gonna just kind of go away quietly. And as I'm watching this, I'm getting the feeling that I wouldn't be sure, right? These teams play each other in September. My guess is that that's probably going to be the series that decides this thing, right? And I'm not saying that, the Giants will necessarily be in position to overtake the Dodgers, but I do think the Dodgers are going to have to put the hammer into them one last time to kind of get rid of them. This is a team that's not going to go away, and I think that this move, again, really kind of personifies that spirit that they have right now.
Yeah, if you really think about it, this is their Mookie Betts trade. Yeah. This is for the same team. The Red Sox keep sending these guys to one goes to the Padres. Bogart signs for for the Padres. The Dodgers trade for Mookie Betts. The Giants trade for Devers. It's just, I think there was frustration, not necessarily with Farhan, but with the situation where he couldn't get into the Mookie Betts trade. He couldn't get into the Soto trade when he was traded to the Padres, or even when he was traded to the Yankees. He couldn't get into these deals. I heard that from the Giants. Deal flow. They love the way the Warriors get into the deal. Like, even if they don't make the deal, they are in it. And if there's a side deal they can make because these other things are happening, they jump into it. And Zaidi, known as, he's always doing stuff, but it was never the big stuff. Yeah. And I think Posey was like, I'm going to do the big thing. Like, I'm going to do it. And I'm going to feel confident about it. And I know that there's risk to it, obviously, with this money. But again, I think they would have signed Devers. I got to keep saying Devers to this trade, to this contract. They would have done it. And plus, they got offloaded Jordan Hicks. So that's $25 million. That's less that they're, that's off the deal. And this is busted. Like, he's going for it. And again, I'm going to take credit for this. I talked to Posey a week ago Saturday and asked him about, hey, the Zach Wheeler trade, kind of known as a bad trade around here, when he sent a potential, future Hall of Famer when he was a prospect for 2 months of Carlos Beltran. Does that still haunt this organ? He's like, no, I love that trade. Like, it was Brian Sabian going for it, telling the team, I still believe you. And this is the year when Posey was out, remember, is when he got his ankle broken in the crash at home plate with Scott Cousins. That was a signal. That was a loud signal. And I've talked to some people. I think it was Posey kind of just, we know sometimes they talk through it when they're thinking about doing something big. If you're lucky enough to be the reporter that's standing in front of him when he's doing it, it's really good. And I will, it was a good way to kind of portray where the Giants were, where Posey was, where his mind space was. I think he was talking it through, like, hey, there's things that are being out there and we're going to be aggressive. That's essentially what he was saying. And my God, were they aggressive? And I think they could be more aggressive. I think they could do, they're not going to do something at this level again. They can't probably financially, but they can be aggressive with other prospects. They can be aggressive with moving some of the guys that are on their current roster. I'm sure they'll play it out with how this works out, but then they're going to be a very active team. I feel that, and I'd heard that a little surprising to me. I heard that in the final years of Zaidi, like they just felt he was too cautious on the big stuff. They felt, I think there was some worry that why he pulled out of the Correa deal. Like, I thought initially that was ownership going, oh my God, $330 million, Carlos Correa, let's get out of this if we can. And I know it was ownership wanted that deal, and Zaidi pulled out of it. So there is a feeling, and maybe it's too risky, and maybe it's going to burn them in the end. But they're like, we need to excite the fan base. We need something to have them go, this is why we want to come to the ballpark. And I tell you, I did have the mental thought when they were playing the Rockies and they won 2 out of 3. But like, I don't know how many of these hitters on the Rockies might be able to fit right in with the Giants. Like, I'm not sure how many Giants position players are better than the worst teams group. Now, they're all slightly better, so it adds up to a lot better. But there wasn't any standout hitter. You go, oh God, this guy. Oh my God. They did not have that. And Devers is the addition of somebody who's way better than every other hitter on the team. Way better. There's not even a question. And he's 28, hasn't aged great, obviously, as a defensive player, but as a bat, like, could he be their Edgar Martinez? I think he could be. Like, I think that's kind of the level of hitter he is. To me, it feels very similar. And Seattle Mariners will take every moment they have with Edgar Martinez.
You know what I love about this thing too is it's kind of does represent a gamble, I think, on Posey's part. He's gambling on the, what he views is going to be the organization's culture. He's gambling on his communication skills because that's
Bob
not
Melvin,
right.
Bob Melvin too,
right?
yeah.
Because Devers was available for a reason, right?
Yep.
There was a whole thing about whether is he going to play on the field, right? The whole Bregman thing coming in and basically taking his position. He was available for a reason, and this is obviously a player who I think has there are communication issues here, right? Obviously, language kind of plays a part on this, and maybe we could touch on this a little bit later. But I think the Dodgers are going through this with Roki Sasaki right now, right? You can sense a growing sense of frustration because they can't communicate with this guy, and sometimes you see trades like this where the personality might not really fit, and it's kind of like this analytical arrogance sometimes that leads them to, right? It's like when the Dodgers got Trevor Bauer, right? It's like, okay, yeah, we know the guy's a dick, but like he's willing to take this cheap contract, and we feel we're just going to jam him in there. And
the numbers are the numbers. Yeah, the numbers will just play out, right? The numbers will play out.
This isn't that, right? And I think, to the Dodgers' credit, I do think they've learned kind of from these things over the years, and I think they take the personality and how these players might fit into the room a little bit more, right? Them deciding, for example, after they rented Manny Machado in 2018, kind of saying, you know what? Maybe this isn't good. This isn't for us. This isn't the guy we want to build around. Obviously, their kind of the personality kind of played a factor in like how they went about building their team. And so that tells me, right. And then look, Buster Posey's not dumb. Like he understands what's going on. I think he's been around this stuff enough to where, okay, sometimes, again, like maybe the guy's just a little introverted, right, and can't articulate things clearly, kind of on the spot, like what he wants. This is a gamble on the Giants' communication skills, right? And like you said, Melvin, Posey himself, to make this work, I do think long-term, the communication is going to be very, very important here. And, to me, this kind of represents, again, their confidence in kind of being able to communicate to players, which, again, oftentimes in this game right now, it's becoming kind of a lost art of sorts.